Provo Municipal Council work meeting is Tuesday, October 1st, 2024 at 3:15 p.m. We'll call out the elected officials. We have Councillor Craig Christensen, Councillor George Hanley, Councillor Gary Garrett, myself, Patrice McKay, Councillor Rachel Whipple, Councillor Becky Bogdan, and Councillor Travis Hoban. Also, the public meeting, only the presenters and those invited by the council may speak or ask questions unless otherwise invited by the chair. Please wait to speak until called on by the council chair. When speaking, please be sure to use a microphone so that the record is clear and those attending virtually can hear you. Please also be sure to limit side conversations if they interfere with the audio recording. If you need to have a side conversation, please step out of the workroom. Number one is a discussion regarding resolution allowing the GT Medical or Noorda Osteopathic School of Medicine to revise the original wetland mitigation plan to allow for more wetlands to be added to the Timpanogos Golf Club. This is presented by Keith Morey.
It's just here. It is just. Oh.
To say. So if you remember right, in our agreement with Noorda, as they started to build their campus, one of the things that they had to do was to try to mitigate for some of the wetlands impacts. And so if we can show that first picture that I think you guys have. Thank you so much. So just high level, this was kind of the first rendering, and you can see those two ponds that are kind of at the north, the top left and the bottom were built to, or intended to be built to kind of create wetlands mitigation for the land that they were going to disrupt. And as we continue the conversations with them, if you can go to that next slide, please. Thank you. So you can see that this piece of property, the 2.2 acres here at the kind of the bottom left, was a parcel that they began to identify had the potential that they could build that last building that we were talking about on. And so to do that, they would need to mitigate, again, a little more potential property for their wetlands bank. And so if you can go to the next one, you can see kind of where the existing area is that they're talking about disrupting. And so what this agreement does is it says that we agree that as they work with the Army Corps of Engineers to determine how much property they're disrupting and how much wetlands they need to create, that they can use some of the golf course property. And that's beneficial to us because it's as you can see from what Brett and his team have done out there at the golf course and some of the incredible improvements that they've made. It's really facilitated a lot of new development out there that's improved the golf course, it's improved the driving range, and this would continue to do that. What it basically does for us, it allows us to maintain the property that they might need to use to disrupt it, that they might disrupt for the wetlands mitigation in our name, but they'll pay us an appropriate value, which we've determined is about $130,000 per acre. And so we'll get that money, and that money will then be allowed to be used for improvements like at the driving range and things of that sort. And I think one of the things that Brett is anticipating is the driving range could really become an asset that could draw people that aren't just there to necessarily golf on the course, but are using that driving range almost like a top golf, maybe not quite to that level, but that there will be that kind of an amenity structure where people could come and maybe host corporate events or whatever, where they could use the driving range as an asset. And from our perspective, it's really kind of a win-win that allows the golf course improvements to be made without a significant impact on our financial situation, and allows the future development of this campus. You can kind of see that's the property or the area that we're talking about. And I don't know you really have any other questions. There's really not a lot to explain to this. It's really up to them to negotiate with the Army Corps on what the Army Corps will or won't let them do. This agreement just basically says that if they need some of our property, we understand that and we're willing to work with them to do that. And they recognize that if they disrupt some of our property, they'll have to compensate us for those potential impacts up to, I think, somewhere potentially between 2 and 5 acres.
Okay, thanks, Keith. Any questions for Keith? Counselor George Hanley.
So could you go back to where the red blobs are? I just didn't understand one of them in particular because it's in the middle of the water, right there, area 3. So I'm not understanding what's being mitigated there.
And Bert, I might need Bryce's help, but my understanding is that that was intended to be kind of an island that they would somehow impact a little bit, and that area is going to get to be a little bit bigger than what we might anticipate. Is that correct?
Yeah, let me,
So how does that increase the wet? Yeah, how does that increase the wetland area if it's an island? That's what I
So
understand.
basically their original plan was this area to be their wetland bank.
Right.
And in order to create this area for a new building or to add to the campus, they've taken an area, they've identified a couple of areas on the course where they will fill in the open water and create low-lying wetlands. So in this one, can you go back to the blue blocks?
Is blue blob?
I don't know if you've heard of Leaping Dog Island, but
Of course.
yes, of course, it's famous. Leaping Dog Island down in the corner, as you can see in the red blobs, is kind of a blob. And it's being filled in that cove. Same thing with this open water here, so we'll maintain the open channel and allow them to push wetlands more onto the city property. That we would still own and maintain, it would just be that we're hosting our wetlands for them.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
There's red blobs.
Okay, thanks, you guys. All right, we'd like to recognize that the Mayor, Michelle Capusi, has joined us. Number 2, we have a discussion, regarding an appropriation for Fire Station number 1. This will be presented by Isaac Paxman, the Deputy Mayor.
See.
Thank you. You may remember we were here before and talked about this project, and I just wanted to start by just recognizing, well, let me just start by saying, you may remember, I don't know if you do, but the mayor really leaned on us and said, I want you to stay in budget on this. And our team talked about it. We've got Chief Hedman and Chief Miguel here, and they're involved in this project heavily as leadership of this project with me helping too. And we decided we were going to propose something that, well, I don't know if anybody's ever proposed an organization before. We certainly don't recommend it every time, but because she was so strong on the synthesis, the normal contingency we always build in the project is 10%. And we said, let's self-impose on ourselves from the outset 5%, so that it'll be all the more painful as we go through this. And if we have to, we'll have to come back. And we were hoping we would never have to come back, but this is coming back. We're still doing great, but that's the background to this meeting. And I just want to point out the good work that the chiefs have done on this. I've seen we've had lots of little decisions to make, and more often than not, they go look at it and they say, we can do without it. I say, that's not critical. And there've been a couple of things they had to fight to say, we need to make this change. But honestly, most of this is not upgrade type things or anything. It's honestly a result of discovering things underground, things that couldn't be anticipated, some long lead items we have, and things like that. I did just want to make sure I recognized some of the team members here. Chris Black from IT, Kyle Hansen from IT, Darren Neal from facilities. We also had Travis Savage from facilities, and Scott, Scott Francis from facilities. Aaron Campbell from our construction company, Paulson, which has been incredible. This is probably my best chance to say this in case we don't get a chance later. I just wanted to publicly thank them because they have taken the mayor's strong urging to heart, and where we've had problems where we found something new underground, had to do some new electrical work. We did a bid back in $60,000, and Aaron and Tony, the two guys in the yellow jackets, have said, And by the way, every project managers in the city will tell you that the normal thing for the construction companies do is just pass that along and say it's $60,000 and they'll just go on our way. But they have not stood for it. They said that doesn't feel right. Let's fight it. Let's go back to them and see what they really mean by this. Let's call another bid in. And repeatedly, time after time, we've seen us get back to this. Recognize a firefighter. Another, but anyway, so great team, great effort. But we have hit some of the things you would expect. We had, just to show you some of the things we've encountered. Well, here's one, and I'm gonna be encouragement of a couple people. I'm gonna didn't work. Come on.
Yeah.
Don't do this to me. This was supposed to be a.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Look at this. This is the west side of the plan, and what we had this design, it was all perfect. This works great for the fire station. And then we realized at the same time we were having the Covey Center expansion discussions and discussions about a parking garage. And we said, you know what? Tell us what you would need to build a parking garage west of this little area. And they came back and said, to do your parking garage, you need to come down here a little bit more. And one Provo, we made the decision, okay, this is fine for the fire station, but we need to do what's right for Provo in the long run. And so we had them redesign and put everything there. There's the debut of our parking lot, I think. So I'm excited I think you get that in. So we took all that and put that there. That alone, $83,000 redesign and redo work there. And there's other things that have been kind of, if you really took a step back, the fire station could have said that's not our issue. We've absorbed it in our budget, all with hope that we would be able to do it still within our 5%. But if you look at that, and then we had to do some other things with the west, there's a grade separation that was really dramatic. And so we, for the good of the site and the long term, had to do some extra work there and some sidewalk work as well that went beyond. So anyway, with all that, we have come back needing another $200,000. There are funds available for it from interest that has been earned on the what is it called, the CARES Act?
Legacy CIP fund.
Legacy CIP fund,
Yeah.
thank you. 150,000 of the Legacy CIP fund that is available. We'll get to that slide here. Well, I need to exit now. Yes, exit.
Oh.
Here's one of the long lead items we need to get as a generator. We were not going to get a generator on time, so we were nimble. We went ahead and made a change months and months ago. One of our weekly items was long lead items. Where are we at on generator? We decided to make a shift, a little bit more money, but make sure we could get the project done and have what we needed. So again, $150,000 of interest earnings that we've already earned. We don't have to go to the general fund for any of this, and then 50,000 more of impact fees. Should, knock on wood, we're not done yet. They're doing paint work, they're doing interior work now. And we just were talking today about a planned grand opening early December. We'll get to the details on that. So anyway, unless there are any questions, that's me.
Any questions for Isaac? Councillor Whipple.
So it sounds like we really did need a 10% contingency.
We're gonna be at 8%, a little under 8% by the end of this is what we will probably need. And again, built in that hurdle, built in that obstacle, built in a pain point. Hope you appreciate that it was a good strategy.
Yeah, because these kind of unanticipated costs, those are common to every project. Every project is going to have little surprises like that, and that's.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking that in the future, we should probably never approve a 5% contingency again. Because
No one will complain about that. I agree. This was a rare, an unusual thing to do, and I apologize if it was inconvenient for the council, but that was our strategy, so.
But do you think because of that, you did work harder on keeping the costs down, or do you know what I'm asking here? Like you guys would have been trying to lower it anyway.
Yeah, it's a conscientious group. We're always trying hard. This was an unusual idea. We decided to try, and yeah, that's what it is.
Well, I'm excited to go check out the new facility.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
No question.
Councillor Bogdan.
So you guys planned for how much for the original budget for this? And then how much was it that you planned for the original?
Good. Basically, if you don't count the contingency piece of the original 6.2 million, we added almost 300,000 of contingency, which is a little less than 5%. So, you know, a 10% contingency would have been 620,000. 10% contingency on 6.2 million would have been that. Instead, we did roughly a 300,000, so less than 5%. We did 293,000 as our original contingency, so it was less than 5% actually. We're now asking for an additional 2%, so we'll now be at a total of 493,000, which is still well under the 620,000 at a 10% contingency. So yeah, if you look at the budget number of what the original budget was, it was 6.5 million, but that included the 3% contingency. So if you ignore contingency.
Right, I saw that, but I also saw something here that said that you guys came and you got so much money, and then you came back in like 22 and got so much more money, and then 23 and got so much more money. Can you explain that a little bit?
You're gonna be finding is good in mind on that. Look at it, see people that can might be able to help me. John, do you want to pick this up?
Can you hear my turn on here?
You just have to turn it on. There's a switch.
Early on, we had hoped to do it for 5 million. And before we really put a pencil to anything, it was just kind of a number that we landed upon, and we hoped we'd be able to do it. And then we got into it. We got into more details and came back that and a little bit of time that expired too between when we were thinking of the 5 million and the cost came higher. So those were the two numbers.
So on February 16th, 21, let's see, you guys had 3.5 million in CARES dollars. And then on August 9th, 2022, an additional 1.5 million in federal APPA funds. And then September 5th, 23 for 1.5 million appropriation for the replacement due to an increase of costs. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I'm looking at my records here too, and we did use CARES Act money of 3.5 million, and then in August of 22, we used 1.5 million of ARPA. So those two combined were 5. And that was what I was referring to as the 5.
Okay.
And so yeah, and the CARES did come before ARPA, but I don't know if there was ever an intention to think that we could do it for 3.5 million. I think it was just money that was designated from CARES, so that that's kind of the starting point. And then when the ARPA became available, we were hoping to be able to do it for actually 5 million.
And then what's the extra 1.5 million on September 5th of 23?
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear you.
September 5th of 23?
Okay. Yeah, that was the remainder that got us up to 6.5. The impact fees were part of it. Yeah, we added to it 650,000 of impact fees. And then we also did bring in an additional, what the components were that made up the 5 and the 6.5 was 5 million of the original, and then we used an additional 350 of impact fees, and then we used additional 500 CARES, and that's how we got 6.5.
Okay, and the 6.5 was, okay. So originally 5, and then you said, then you decided to redo it, so then it went to 6.5, and then now we're asking for another 200,000 more.
Yeah, and I would say that originally we set aside 5 million, but we really had not got to the point where we were getting bids and we were trying to really get down to the details. That was just kind of it was kind of a hope, and what we were thinking we could do it for it. That was another reason why we were really, as Isaac mentioned, we were trying to be very conservative, because we were hoping that we could do it for 5, and then when we got the actual numbers they came in, that we're going to keep this as close to 5 as we can, and so we held it to a 5% contingency, keep it at 6.5.
Thanks, John, for that explanation.
One more question. Councilor Whipple.
Are there any additional interest earnings from the legacy CIP fund? This wipes it out.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realize that we had interest earnings from the CIP fund that were floating around before you guys like pulled it in for this. Okay,
John brought this forward when he first came and said, you may need to go back and ask council for more money. He said, show us what all the options are, and we found these two options.
seriously, I wanna like dig through.
Hey, any other questions? All right, thanks, Isaac. Next, we have a discussion regarding the upcoming Provo City Housing Summit. This is presented by council staff.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So, as we all know, our housing summit is next week on Thursday. And so this review here, if you remember when we came to in July, I believe, or August, we talked about sending out a guide and holding our office hours and kind of talking about it there. And we went to the housing conference with the Midway. A lot of us did, and now we're going to do a final review all together in the same room before next week. With that being said, we don't have scheduled office hours anymore, but if anyone would like to come in and discuss housing summit more, or just housing policy in general, the door is always open. You can always come and talk to Michael and I about these. So Michael's gonna run through kind of run a show and the day and what the summit's gonna look like that night, kind of the agenda, some things to look out for. And then, as requested by Councilor Whipple, we did put together a quiz based on the guide that we sent out. It's short, it's only 10 questions. We did it today in staff meeting. It's not that hard.
It's actually good exercise.
We say it's not hard, but we've been doing this, working with the data since May, so it might, I don't know how hard it actually is. And so we'll do that, and then we will go through and answer any questions about the guide and we can go through there. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Michael.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, all right, so just real quickly, we just kind of want to go over the basic details of the summit. So for the past couple of months, the most common question we've been getting from counselors and some city staff is, what is the goal of this summit? So let's go over that real quick. Essentially, the goal is that, or the what, the why of this summit is an event led by the council to bring stakeholders, especially the state legislators that represent the city, just to a group discussion to discuss the challenges and solutions to homeownership issues specifically in Provo. It's like Nick said, it's going to be on October 10th from 6 to 8 in the council chambers. And just one quick note, the meeting is subject to open public meeting law, so it will be open to the public. There's not going to be any public comment or anything like that. And the members of the public who would like to watch can participate via Zoom, YouTube at their house, and will also have it streamed in the community room, but the public won't actually be inside the council chambers. Okay, so this matrix here, we distributed it several times, and it's kind of what we consider to be the most important document for the council regarding the summit. It contains kind of like the flow of what the council should be unified on when they're speaking to state legislators. It shows what we want, what we're doing to achieve our goals related to homeownership, the challenges that we're still facing despite all of what we're currently doing, which actually is a lot if you really look into it, and the ways that we think the state could help us achieve our goals. So if there's anything in the hundreds of pages of data and stuff that we sent you that you want to commit to memory, it would probably be the basic bullet point facts in this matrix here. And as we were going over the summit with all y'all during our office hours and throughout the weeks via email, we've received some questions like, oh, why is an X issue on the matrix are gonna be talked about during the housing summit, or why is it Y issue gonna be on there? And just the answer to that is that the overall housing discussion is very large and very multifaceted, and we could spend like a whole week talking about various things with legislators and really getting into the weeds and the minutia of all it, but the summit really has a very limited scope of home ownership. But if you do want to engage with some legislators on the other issues surrounding home ownership, such as like affordable housing or renters' rights and things of that nature, just let us know. We do have a lot of data and information on that we've gathered while researching the home ownership issue. And if we want to reach out to legislators individually with small groups of counselors, we can really easily do that. Just let us know. And there's going to be time set aside specifically at the end of the summit just for general discussion. And that'd be a good opportunity for individual counselors to bring those issues up with legislators all that in the room.
So just a question about that. So for example, I mean, but if we can tie it to one of these three, I mean, I don't know if they're tied, but I'm just, a question that's on my mind, for example, is the issue of landlords, you know, not maintaining the properties, which on the one hand seems like it's extraneous to this conversation, but on the other hand, if the state were to really lean heavily on landlords to improve their properties, maybe they would be less inclined to, they would be making less money.
Right, yeah.
Right, and so maybe that like changes the incentives a little bit for our housing market if we're actually asking them to improve the conditions of those apartments. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a really good point, George. So you're kind of getting like Utah Fit Premises Act, which is a really big thing, but we do recognize that issues surrounding the rental market and landlords are an issue. And that's why one of the ways to help us would be to permit us to impose greater penalties on landlords, because just any if a landlord violates any one of our laws, such as over occupancy, what you mentioned, like maintenance of the property, anything, we can only subject them to an up to $1,000 fine. And for a landlord that has dozens of properties, that's really a drop in the bucket as far as things go. But did I answer your question?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I'm just using that would be okay to bring up in the context of existing rental, single family housing converted into owner occupant housing, that we're saying, look, one of our problems is this issue with insufficient penalties.
Yes, definitely. I think when you're meeting with the people at the summit and during the discussion, you can bring up anything that touches housing. I mean, you can bring up other things too as well. But just as far as the script and the slides and the materials we're putting together is going to be home ownership focused. But that doesn't mean that that doesn't touch these other issues. And when you're talking to people individually one-on-one, you can bring those up and say, see, like this stat, that would be helped by this. Definitely welcome to do that. But the materials we're presenting, because we didn't want to have like 4 hours of script and content and data, we just honed in on home ownership, since that was the council's one of their main priorities this year set in January.
On that note, like George said, I emailed you this weekend or texted this weekend about that. Will Brian be back for this? I'm wondering if it is worth 5 minutes of him standing up and mentioning, because our goal is things that they can make a difference on, right? And dealing with that law is something they can make a difference on, and we just need to put the bullet points of why, because it goes into limit the number of units investors, because investors they will naturally own less units if they're not such money bag, you know. And then the permit greater penalties for landlords, you know, goes into that. So it goes into a couple things on here, but kind of like we're doing with the Provo Housing Authority, I'm wondering if a 5 minutes of legal would be helpful. And the other thing I want to fit in 5 minutes of is the tough. We have to fit that in with these legislators. That's going to be a huge thing this year. And how it relates to home ownership is the fact that so much of our land is not even ownable by an entity that's paying taxes.
What was the second part?
The
Tax utility.
the transportation.
Oh, yeah.
Because what are they gonna be voting on? They're gonna be voting on the tough thing. That's gonna be coming up. And then possibly, you know, the units investors own, Tyler Clancy's working on a lot of that. And then the, like George mentioned, the, if they can do things to help with this housing thing, that does fit up with it. So I do think we have to, and it can be short, but we have to bring it to their attention.
Noted. All right, just a real quick overview of what the agenda is gonna look like. It's gonna kind of be in 3 main parts, part 1, part 2, part 3, kind of like the original Star Wars. So the first deal is we're gonna go over the story of Provo's housing. We're just gonna kind of review the city's current work and on increase and the council's efforts, the administration's efforts on increasing homeownership in the city. Part 2, we're gonna go over what is it like for various demographics to actually purchase a home in Provo, how many Provo citizens can actually afford to purchase a home in Provo, kind of what sort of challenges do these people face while they're navigating the housing market, and then finally, we're gonna wrap it all together, review the challenges one more time, and engage with the legislators on proactive solutions.
Okay, I love that, Michael. And that goes automatically in with the tough too, in the sense that we are covering, you had a good percentage in there. What is it, like 79% of the affordable housing in Provo for the county or something? I know there was some.
LIHTC housing.
Yes, LIHTC housing. So between LIHTC, Provo Housing Authority housing, and all the other nonprofit housing we have, which other cities do not have, we have this huge other chunk that, again, they're not adding to that fund, right? And so, you know, if they do the whole nonprofit thing at the state, so we have to really drill that in, that we are covering a much higher percentage of the needs of the county than anyone else. And you can't hurt us with this tough thing in the interest of nonprofits or, you know, other entities.
All right, well, with that, I will now pass the baton to my esteemed colleague.
Okay, we just wanted to put this slide together. This hasn't been this wasn't in the guide. And we haven't talked about this yet, but as we're working through all of this, and then as we were at the housing conference and talking with all of you during office hours, there's a lot of words to kind of describe housing at the state. It's kind of frustrating if you read state code, they don't have definitions for affordable or attainable or what those really mean. If you look at different bills, they mean different things. And then here, when we talk, we all have different kind of words for things, and some of them are synonymous with each other, but some are different. So we didn't put a definition to any of them because there are so many various definitions in code, both state and federal. There is an official federal definition for affordable, which then a lot of HUD funding, a lot of nonprofit housing has to fit into those levels of affordability, and that's where AMI comes in. That's where all that goes in, and that's in the guide. But as far as attainable, that word gets mentioned a lot at the state. That is kind of fuzzy on what that actually means. Anyway, all these things here, we just wanted to make a pitch that when we're going into the housing summit, that we're aware that people might be saying low income, and to them that might be something very different than deeply affordable, or they might say affordable. And so just ask clarifying questions if someone is talking about, well, I'm really focused on making sure we have workforce housing, and say, workforce for who, for what demographic, for what population, what does that look like? I'm interested in starter homes. Okay, starter homes for who? For young people or for other, like, what does that look like? What is the price point on that? Does that mean condos too, or does that mean single family detached? Like, what does that look like? So making sure to ask those clarifying questions, but then also ask them of yourself and kind of be like, okay, do I have a definition of what that kind of means to me? What would that look like in policy? Yeah.
I thought things like affordable, deeply affordable and so forth were AMI related.
Yes, so affordable and deeply affordable,
But there's different percentages.
those,
Yeah, different
so
percentage.
under HUD, those are defined. So at the state, if you hear Wayne Niederhauser talk, he talks about deeply affordable just because of the population that he is working for. That's generally 40% AMI and below, typically 30% AMI. They've kind of budged it up a little bit. As of late, affordable just means, doesn't really have to do with AMI. Affordable more has to do with 30% of your gross income is going to housing. So affordable might look different between me and Michael. Because, well, actually we make like the same job, but whatever. So like people who have different jobs, affordable might look different for them. So affordable is more
What you can afford.
relative, yeah, what you can afford. Deeply affordable is attached to an AMI. So that is kind of tricky. Yeah, just want to put this out here as just making sure you have kind of an understanding of what this means, and then when people are talking, say, what does that look like? What does that mean? So.
Yeah, and just because we know affordable is tied to AMI and is defined by HUD, it doesn't mean that other people talking to us know that that has a specific definition.
Right.
They may just be in the common parlance.
Educate them in the conference or give them some sort of chart.
Are we talking about this?
No, we're not talking, this isn't in the script. I'm just saying when people are talking about housing, if you listen to the Commission on Housing Affordability, some subgroups will say, well, we're here for affordable housing, and some will say, well, we're for attainable housing. ULCT uses attainable or affordable. Some say starter, the governor says starter homes. So like everyone's saying these different things. So just when people are saying these different phrases, it's good just to ask and be like, oh, what price point does that look like for you? Are you talking about attached or detached? Just so when we're talking, we're not like talking above each other, or like getting down to what that actually means in policy and tangible housing options. Okay, next we're going to do our fun quiz. And it is fun because it's a Kahoot, and I don't know else what that means. If you have kids in school, you probably.
Oh, my primary kids love this.
Yeah, so we're doing a Kahoot. So we can only have 3 teams. So there's
I want to be on her team.
7 of you. So you can have 3 teams and 1 team of 3, or
There's pizza
3
with
teams.
processed meat is the prize.
Yeah, and put on their own.
No, I don't want that.
Anyway. So
I didn't
here,
study for this exam.
hey, we gave you a guide. It's all in the
It's
guide.
been in a lot of emails.
So what we need you to do is to either
Cram.
we're gonna be coming to be host here.
Time to cram.
So just join, go to on your phone. So first find your team. So you gotta figure out who's on your team. Only 3 teams can join. So we got Becky and Travis, Catrice and Rachel, and then
The 3 guys.
Okay, we're sparing the
the quarter.
administration.
The 3 stooges.
Okay, so you can either join by going to this website here and type in your game pin, or scan the QR code and join. And once you're in, give yourself a name, and then you'll be in.
Give my individual self a name or the team name?
Team.
What, who?
One phone per team.
Yeah, one phone per team.
What's that?
One phone per team.
One phone.
All right, what do you want to be called?
I thought you already had your team name.
Old dudes.
That's great.
Yeah.
Old dudes. Awesome. Okay, so now this is how Kahoot works. So the question's gonna come up on the screen. On your phone is going to be like
Sorry, Gary.
colors and the colors associated with those answers. Like the answers will be on your phone. So the question will be up here, and then you answer on your phone. You get points for how fast you answer and if it's correct. If you answer incorrect but fast, you get no points anyway, so might as well get it correct. But going faster is helpful.
And this whole game is gonna go fast.
Yeah, it's
Okay, good.
fast.
Are these results grandmother?
But it's public meeting.
Well, the whole thing is
Live.
live right now.
Every answer is in the housing guide, so if we have it up and you can go really fast, you have 30 seconds to answer each question. So if you can control them really fast, then you're good to go.
Well, darn it, if I had it, but maybe we'll do it.
Okay,
Alright, are we ready?
yeah.
Alright. Players ready?
Ready?
Here we go.
Three, two, one. And down, sorry.
It's 39%.
So you have 30 seconds to answer.
I just looked at it.
It's 49%, 49%.
9%.
Is that a good thing or a
Very
bad thing?
similar, 49, 56.
So it's
It's within the
almost half of almost half of our city is in the younger demographics. Okay, next one.
Each shot get higher.
Quicker, Becky, quicker. Paul. That's it. Oh, there it is.
Some of them are written that way to try and help you with the right answer.
I had this on my hard copy. I made a note about it.
Yeah, we ran out of time. We should have guessed.
Yeah, you should, yes.
Rookie mistake.
Oh, dudes. Oh, dudes.
Place, okay.
All right, question.
Good job, everyone. That was quick.
Ooh, the whole dudes are on a screen.
We're still in second place.
Alright.
What's the building? I think they're counting the building.
We should vote this way.
It's not good. When it gets the numbers of multifamily, it's giving the numbers of buildings of multifamily, not units, right?
I think it.
Or is it by units?
We'll go over that
Go
one.
over
next
that.
time. Yes.
It's 51%.
It's 51% of the households in Provo are hiring.
That's the frontage, right?
This says 55%.
We'll show you on the guide.
Okay.
We're still in second place though. You just wanna run-
Okay, we gave you 45 seconds on this because I made it a tricky question, sorry.
I can't read.
I'm gonna need you to find this.
There it is, there.
Medium rent. Look at those answers, okay.
8 seconds.
Come on, Becky.
Oh, I didn't.
So,
10 seconds.
5.
Wait, where is my Kahoot? Where's my Kahoot? I lost my Kahoot. I couldn't find my Kahoot.
Amazing. There must be such trouble. My kids got into it.
Not this bad.
oh no, it's terrible. Ugh.
Right,
And it
for
makes
Paul.
Third.
What do you think?
How do you live with 4 or more bedrooms? Oh no, they're right.
What's that? Oh, no, that's weird.
You would say
4 or more bedrooms? Yeah.
Oh, third, where is that? Oh, there we go.
2 units.
No, it's probably false, but I put true, so it's like, can't go back.
It's true.
I knew it all along.
Should that bump us up? We're still last.
Yeah, see, when everybody else gets it right, it doesn't really help us.
At least it doesn't hurt you.
You're right.
The majority of which seven houses are owners of their homes, not renters. Especially every house is better than others. You just wanna go with it? It's too easy though, it's gotta be a trick.
Which one? What is it? You're thinking blue?
Hey, what's the answer?
Good
question.
Every household had this majority.
Wrong, but.
Who was wrong fastest? Us. Okay, that should be something. Well,
Yes, that's true.
okay, Becky, we're going with it. We're going with it, Becky.
Wait, is it attached? Yeah. Right.
So are we doing true?
It's probably false.
Green, it's green.
It's false.
Oh, shoot.
It's all right.
Alright,
Can I do a mid-season trade? What was the median expectancy on September 24? It's about 400K.
You should know, you look at them.
I mean, I said that so confidently, who could
Where's the
question,
time?
right?
It's red.
See the time.
For a single family.
alright, 10 seconds.
Can't tell, well,
What, 700K?
yeah, you looked it up?
Well, nationwide, 400K, so.
So why, can we pause? for a
Yep.
second? So why, when we do the property tax, we say the average household is 400,000?
Because that's including townhomes and condos, which the next question will show you. This is
Oh,
just.
because this is single family,
And there's a difference between the listing price and the valuation.
That's September, that's like a snapshot in time. Next question.
well, yeah, that was single
Nope, still
family,
have
so that threw me off.
Ooh, they're
right
right.
We're right behind you guys. Hey,
Oh, so
what's medians?
302.
Okay. Yeah, 527, that looks right.
That is
Locking
exactly
it
right.
in, locking it in, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, how did we do this?
4, 3, 2.
Becky was right.
Okay,
And the winner is.
last place is Hobo.
Oh, we did.
Okay.
Councilmember votes, we losing a who?
That would be.
Now we're gonna go.
Okay, I feel good about that.
Walk through some of the stats, especially the ones that we just put up on the Kahoot.
You should have picked the person, you should put Michelle on your team.
And we still have 30 minutes here, so we really wanna make sure that we're all on the same page when we walk through this. We don't have to take full 30 minutes if everyone's like, no, we're good to go. Then-
As we are walking through this.
Yes,
I just keep thinking about this.
Yeah.
So what if we gave 5 minutes to 5 people? We're doing Sarah for Provo Housing Authority.
Yep.
We do Tyler for his bill he wants to do on limiting investors. We do Isaac with Tough. And when we do, what was the other thing?
right.
Brian with the legal. And literally it would be so short, but it can be, and I'd love to talk to you about more about this afterwards, or, we do it as like an action item, like this is an action item. And an action item would be that we make sure that nonprofits are paying their fair share, because it will really hurt cities like Provo that have a disproportionate amount of, and I don't even know if it's in relation to, like the ADU exception that even, I don't know what'll happen with the Tough, but like, what do you think, Isaac?
Honestly, I feel like invite people to a housing summit, I wouldn't talk about that.
Really?
No.
You don't think it's relevant
I
with
mean-
the,
Tough increases price of. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
To me, I'm such a fan of how you narrowed it to owner occupancy,
Okay.
and it would be, I mean, maybe.
You think we'd be hurting ourselves to say that?
And I don't know, that's. But if you'd like me to, I'm happy to address it, but I feel like keeping everybody aligned on something we can all agree on would probably be, because tough is not a simple one that everybody in the state agrees to and every legislator agrees to.
Okay.
Since you asked me directly, I'm gonna answer.
Oh, thank you. No,
Yeah.
that's helpful. All right.
I would just focus on
Okay.
homeownership, kumbaya, and not introduce anything
Okay,
else.
is there anything else? Okay, as we're listening, please feel free to let us know if you think there's something we're missing.
And then maybe at the appropriate time, we do have an opportunity as a council and as a city to exercise our influence, whatever it might be, on the state legislature to make sure that they do what we want them to do. Is that what you're saying? Like, you think it's just not appropriate in this setting, but I mean, at some other point, presumably if it's coming up as a vote, we would want to say, hey, don't forget about us.
And that's just my initial reaction.
Yeah.
Feel
And we're
free to
putting-
welcome strong.
You're putting your lobbyists on it and you're staying on top of it, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
the league is working on this, we have a meeting this week.
Okay.
So, but these things are nuanced and there are lots of moving pieces.
Okay.
And I think it's a little dangerous,
Okay,
to wait in. I think it's good to stay with the league and march lockstep. If you want to do it, that's probably what I'd do, is have Cameron Deal do it, or he could tell me. It's not open to anything, but that's my initial reaction.
okay. Thanks, Isaac.
But I like, just for feedback, I like the list though that you just gave. I don't know if that's not currently in our agenda. so-
Sarah is in our agenda
Oh.
and Tyler and Ryan, I think would be easy to put in for 5 minutes or less. Like, it really is a short thing, but fit it in within your narrative that it would fit as an FYI.
We can reach out to them.
Yeah,
Definitely.
thank you.
And the legislatures here.
Tyler's coming, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't hesitate to voice your opinion why you got it.
Yes, well, I think I'll for sure talk about the tough afterwards.
Okay, so as I said, we're gonna walk through this. Michael is the data master, I am not. So if you have really specific data questions, he knows a lot more than me. Yeah, George.
I don't have I have some sort of a general comment to make, which maybe is better now than later. I've been feeling lately, and I'm just gonna, maybe others don't agree with me on this, but this is a comment about strategy. Sometimes I worry that if we try to insist that we constantly point out that we're doing more than our share of all the affordable housing stuff and the homelessness services, all of which is true. I'm not trying to deny that, but I actually kind of think that maybe it's more persuasive to take a kind of pride in that and own it and say, we want help. We are moral leaders. We care about this. This is not something we're ashamed to be doing. Other people, I guess what I'm saying is sometimes, it just doesn't seem like that rhetoric's working very well. And maybe reverse psychology might help in the sense that if we kind of tap into the conscience of other cities and other communities and let them see a model of what they can do. And we can say, we need your help to do this well, because we don't want all of the commitments that we have to our student population, to people who have lower income. We don't want that to hurt our chances for home ownership in Provo. And that's why we're having this summit. Do you see the shift I'm trying to suggest? Just a slight shift in tone that I just feel like might be worth trying, because I think we should be proud of what we're doing. I think our challenges are even steeper because of what we're doing and because of the demographics that we have in the city. But I don't think we're going to win over people if we constantly are saying, you're not doing your job. And I know this is a housing summit for Provo, and it's not necessarily going to be watched super closely by other cities. But I think that if we keep beating a drum of positivity, I think other people will get jealous. Maybe there's the hope that they'll say, I want to be a part of that kind of a solution, rather than, just digging in my heels. I don't know. It's just something that's been kind of, eating at me lately, that maybe we could show leadership instead of feeling beaten down and playing the victim, I guess is what I'm saying. And again, I'm just speaking strategically. I'm not disputing facts or anything. I'm just trying to think about ways to inspire others to be, joining us rather than not. Anyway, just a thought.
Counselor Whipple?
Right, so the idea would be to say that our kind of continuum of care where we're working with these agencies has been far more successful than something like what we've seen in Salt Lake with a congregate shelter and things like that. And we would like to have the state legislators recognize the success of this and invite other communities to follow our model, because we've been able to address the needs of our people here, whether they're housed or not, and still have a vibrant downtown, have good economic development. And we should be the model that the state should be looking at, instead of the state threatening to destroy our model by imposing a congregate shelter on us. But that invitation to other communities to do this successful thing that integrates fairly well into the community.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's well said.
Okay. We're gonna go through this semi-quickly. Like I said, well, you can't really read it because it's small. All the data for this came from American Community Survey, which is like a yearly updated census. It's what HUD uses as well to kind of track their housing numbers, so that we felt like that was a good place to get our numbers for this. As well as the Gardner Policy Institute's Utah Housing Affordability Dashboard. So we also use those. Our moderate income housing and general plan is based off the same data sources, so everything is the same. So whether if you look at someone else's data, like some third party, it might be a little different, but as far as Provo City, we're the same across all of our documents, and it's what the state is also using. So that's why we chose those data sources. There are margins of errors on everything though, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so this was the demographic question that we had. We did that one about the ages because we wanted to highlight how many young people, me and Michael's age, live here in Provo. And then also our households. So the majority of our households are married couple families. That's what I call in the census. And then we just put in here a thing about BYU students and UVU students, just how many there are going there. The UVU students, it is a hard data point to kind of track down just because the model of their university, so much is high school students, so much is online, so much is like working, going back to school, commuting. So it's hard to pin down exactly how many students are living here in the Orem Provo area. So we just put the full-time estimated on-campus student population. That's all we felt comfortable kind of claiming there.
Yes, and I just want to say,
Did we invite BYU to this?
I don't know that.
I don't think.
We'll look at the invite list. There's so many people on the invite list. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Do you know what? Why don't you send to us who you think we should invite? Like, we don't really have relationships with anyone there.
just one quick thing about this. You may be wondering, why does it say that there's 34,825 households and there are 34,937 BYU students? How does that make any sense? Well, I would ask the Census Bureau. But it's just because it's really hard to define what a household is. So our reasoning, the way we can reason ourselves away from that is that one household may have many householders inside of it. Does that make sense?
So
Well, you're talking about like singles, like you have six.
yeah,
singles.
so for example, where I live
Yep.
is a household by the census.
Right.
But me and my other two roommates are householders, but we are considered one housing unit, one household. But
But you would be listed as 3.
so it's like, so when you're looking at data it's hard to make apples to oranges comparisons on some of the data, just because of that kind of nuance there. So just want to point that out.
So if anybody asks you about data discrepancies in that, the line is one household may have many householders.
And
What constitutes a householder?
a householder is someone who is not a dependent over the age of 18. So,
File your own taxes.
yep, you file your own taxes, you can fill out this, basically, if you are legally allowed to fill out the census for yourself, then you are a household. So it's kind of, this one, I don't have anything, oh, down here, this was a question that we had, this chart is kind of, there's a lot of information on this chart down here at the bottom. This is where we got the 4 more bedrooms make up over a third of the total housing units in Provo. And then we just put the percent of those are owner occupied. So as you can see, if there's 4 or more bedrooms in housing unit, it's almost 2/3 of those are owner occupied. Everything else, every other bedroom type, so 4 or 3 or less, is a third or less owner occupied. So as soon as you get less than 4 bedrooms, it is vast majority renter occupied.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that all of those are single family homes. A lot of these like 2 or 3 bedroom units, there's 17,000 of them. It could mean that that is a rental unit in a big building.
That is our supply issue though, as far as starter homes.
Yeah, so we just wanted to kind of illustrate that. We thought that was kind of the powerful owner occupied versus renter occupied as far as housing types. Next, this
Wait, so,
thing,
sorry, can we stay on that for a minute?
Yep.
So 2 or 3 bedrooms. I just want to go back to Catrice's comment. So would we identify that as the missing middle? Would we say you have
It could be.
a total number of units in Provo, 50% of all units in Provo are 2 or 3 bedrooms, and yet 71% of them are rentals.
yes,
So those presumably would be eligible, well, everybody's eligible to own, but at that point, if you're already in a unit of 2 or 3 bedrooms, can we cross that with,
How many are single family homes? I mean, like, I think it's hard to find.
well, I'm just trying to figure out where the really opportunity, where the best opportunities or most urgent opportunities are for that first step up the ladder into ownership, right? And if those are the people that are getting stalled out, where they're renting at 2 or 3 bedrooms, and then they're gonna move into, they're gonna stay there, or if they get any bigger, they're gonna move into another rental, but they're never gonna be able to buy. I don't know, we don't know anything about the 2 or 3 bedroom residents.
I think the most insight we have into that is here where it says 50% of attached single family homes are renter occupied. So these, again, to bring ourselves up, this is like living in a townhome. We have 3 bedrooms and it's all rented, and it's single family attached housing. So a lot of the townhomes in my HOA are rented and they're all 3 bedroom units. So like, but then I look up on Zillow for townhomes in Provo that are for sale, and those are prices that I would be able to afford, but there's like 3 of them. So most are rented. So I think that is the missing middle there, like the condo and townhome kind of market is largely rentals right now. So
Investors, yeah.
any other questions on this one here before we move on to the AMI explanation page?
Well,
So
I guess for the
Oh.
audience, for the, sorry to keep harping on this, but this feels to me like a really important point. And if we can get this across to ourselves and to everybody else, I just want a clear picture, if we can get one, of where the best opportunities are to improve home ownership. And it seems like, I mean, you're speaking anecdotally about that. So I don't, which I hear all the time. So I don't have any reason to believe that's not true. But do we have data to suggest that if Provo were to suddenly provide 50 new units for sale that would be in that range of 2 to 3 bedrooms, that they would be bought. Or that if we had legislation that would help protect against investors, that they would be.
Well, I think there, George, we can go to, again, direct data to make that story, I don't know, but there are some lines we can kind of draw there. So when we're talking about condo and townhome, those median listing prices, 302 and 401, those are all well within HUD and state first-time homebuyer program price ranges. Those are also might even fit within affordable, because again, affordable is tied to AMI, not the actual cost of it, but relative. Those are tied to AMI prices. So those prices those would be affordable to people like Michael and I at our prices, so we could get out of rentals for our income. So I think, George, building more product that is sold at a median lower price rather than a higher price, to answer your question specifically, would kind of fit that gap there. Because they do then qualify for state and federal programs for people to be first-time home buyers and get down payment assistance, but also then those are just naturally more affordable prices for people.
Okay.
And you brought up missing middle housing. I wanted to clarify, that's not number of bedrooms that's in a unit.
It's a price.
Well, missing middle is also about like duplexes, fourplexes, small apartment complexes, things like that. So it's that middle in between detached single family homes and big high-rise apartments.
Right.
Oh, that was all.
But presumably, I guess presumably we would imagine that. I mean, for every single family detached home that we build in Provo, given the data, there's a better chance that those will be sold and owned than any other housing type in Provo.
Yes.
But we also know that the vast majority of those are beyond the vast majority of our population's ability to afford.
Yes.
So that's all I'm saying, is that like if we can say that we've got for sale, for owner occupancy, everything from 300,000 to 5 million is available in Provo. Maybe we don't have equal numbers, obviously, but we can point, if the numbers look pretty bad, if we're saying there's 3 at 300,000, but there's, who knows how many at 600,000, right?
Yeah, because I think that also to go back.
Because
to
when you square that with our income levels, then you're saying, well, we could be building all we want, those people aren't gonna buy them.
Yeah, and that goes back to, Michael pulled this and kind of did it. Comparison here is homes sold by AMI. So homes include single family condo town, just homes sold in 2022. And then by the AMI that we put on the other page. So as far as, again, this is based on affordability, so relative to the people, but based on the AMI of the area, the majority, 85% of homes are for 80% of AMI. And when you consider, like our question on the Kahoot, where 70% of Provo's population is 100% AMI or below, then that leaves out a large portion of Provo residents to be able to buy the homes that are good for sale in Provo. Again, there's a lot of lines you kind of have to draw between the data to get to a story or an answer in a question, but it's all there. And Michael has a lot more data than what is in this guide. He had to filter a lot. He had to edit. He was many hours. AMI, so this definition here we pulled from the Moderate Income Housing Report and HUD as kind of a combo definition there. AMI is by definition the area median income, so it has to be over an area, not just a city. So the AMI that is used by HUD for our area and also in our Moderate Income Housing Report and General Plan is for the Provo Orem metro area, which includes all of Utah County and then some of Juab County as well. So when you're looking at these AMIs, this is for that whole area. So all the cities in Utah County and then parts of Juab. With that being said, if you look at just Provo's median income, which we didn't include on here, but we can send that in a chart separately for you. Our Provo median income is our 100% of Provo median income is, what is it, Michael?
It's kind of like,
96,000?
no, not 96,000.
96 is the area.
That's the area. Provo is more like high 50s to very low 60s.
So our 100% is the area median income 60%. So that just means Provo's demographic on the whole is a lot poorer. I don't want to say poorer, I can't say that.
Say lower.
Lower than the county in general. So,
But I don't see that that's explained very clearly.
Yeah.
We need to explain that very clearly. Let's put the
In a headline.
national median, AMI, the county one, and the Provo one.
okay, we can do that.
And I think we do that, some other stats, like, let's put,
Well, that could actually be like a call out box. And
Yes.
That's such a pivotal piece of information.
so on the percentage of rentals, I want to see national average, county average, or federal, state,
When
county,
you
and then
mean,
Provo.
when you say percentage of rentals, what do you, like our housing units
Yeah.
that are rented?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep. Like, we need call out boxes on those things, of the
Yeah.
big ones, AMI, percentage of rentals,
Yes.
what else?
Well, this is implied in what I was saying earlier, but I'm thinking it more clearly. I mean, I don't want to assume that students can't buy homes now. I think some do, but if we have the number of students, which is too bad we don't have that UVU number. I mean, I've always assumed it's somewhere around 10,000, but I don't know why I've heard that number. You think it's more than that?
It's like 3 times.
In Provo?
In Provo, we don't know.
That's what I'm saying. I'm wondering how many UVU students live in Provo, and I've always assumed it's like a third to a half of the students at UVU. I don't know.
What makes you confident that it's so much more?
They like our housing.
They love our housing.
They wanna
love
be
the
close to
BYU
BYU.
Experience.
Yeah.
While going to UVU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the kids are UVU kids.
And it's not happening in reverse, like
Yeah.
BYU students aren't living in Orem to be living near UVU.
But what I want to say is like, and I don't know how to do this, but I want to think about, and I don't know how to do this without being unfair to students, which I also don't want to be. Because like I say, I mean, if they're young couples that are maybe interested and able to buy, and they're graduate students who are older and they're already in that market. But if there's a population of people in Provo who are single or who are married, who have professional job, they're settling in Provo and they're looking at renting, like you guys have talked about, for like, who knows how many more years before they're going to be able to buy something. That feels like, to me, a super important population to target in the data somehow. And I'm worried that if we don't remember, if we lose sight of this huge number of students who are not in that category, typically, that overwhelms the data in a way that doesn't give us that clear picture. Does that make some sense?
Yeah, so there is data that kind of shows the age of people owning housing types, but the margin of error is so incredibly, it's like almost as much as like the actual percentage, so you don't feel confident using that data. I do get what you're saying, but as far, we can look and see if we can
Do you know-
find something that would show that.
What might, I don't know if it would narrow it down, is just looking at single family homes that are rented versus owned and how that fits to the other percentages, but because then you're getting rid of all the more of the student housing, but it was so much of our single family homes.
Well,
are
that would be,
student
that's a
homes.
telling data point all on its own, yeah, just to say, like, if we build 100 single family detached homes, we actually will probably only end up selling to owner occupancy 45% of it.
Well, right now, single family
That's pretty low.
detached is almost 80%.
Yeah, 23% of
20.
single family homes
No,
are
but of the
rented.
2 to 3 bedroom.
Now, this is all single family
Oh,
homes.
okay.
All single family homes in the city, 23% of them are rented. The other ones are owner occupied.
Single family detached.
Single family detached. Townhome type
Okay.
stuff is another story. That's 58% is.
That was in the
rented.
quiz. That was a little confusing, because I was thinking of this number.
Yeah, and
So 25% would be rented.
we have a really cool map that we got, I don't know, a year or so ago that shows the percentage of homeowner occupied by different neighborhoods. Do you remember this map?
Yes.
Yeah.
The-
And it's, so we can identify pretty clearly where the detached single-family homes that are being rented are. It's disproportionately in our pioneer neighborhoods
For sure.
and in Becky's neighborhood. So the northeast, and the east side, very few of those detached single-family homes are rented out.
So
And a lot of those are bigger homes too.
yeah, so what is it, what accounts for that? Just income level?
I think.
And the housing type?
Well, yeah, and the houses in our part of the city are older and more likely to be smaller. And those were bought up by investors years ago.
Cause those houses tend to be more naturally affordable.
Yeah,
Well, didn't Dixon start out with some ADUs? Cause I have a friend that's in her seventies and she lived in Dixon growing up and she said they started out with ADUs there, so it's just continued and perpetuated to the point where North Park has hardly any full homes without ADUs in them, or illegal duplexes. So I think that's part of it too.
Okay, we don't have that much more time, so let's.
Are there any specific questions or anything that Malia wants to specifically say?
No, I think just, when we're looking at renters, we did include things about renting in the guide, even though this is about ownership, just because the majority of our population rents, so it's important to understand the type of rental units and, the AMIs and affordability there. Rental prices, this is just, one note about the median rent. This is the rent someone pays per person, not the rent per unit. So we couldn't find how much it is rent per unit, because you might have 4 students living in one place, each paying $500. So the rent of the unit is $2,000, but for this calculation, it's by each individual person.
Which is
paying.
why investors make so much money renting to students. I mean, it's incredibly lucrative.
Extreme, very lucrative.
Then this is our last one. This again is just a snapshot on for sale housing in Provo, and we've kind of talked through this. Again, when we're looking at AMI and houses sold, this again is relative to what affordable is. So there is also a note here for policy decision is that, maybe it's okay that we don't focus on just making houses for a certain AMI. Maybe we want to focus on this AMI, maybe we want to focus on this. So those are decisions that we just invite you to kind of think through as in preparation for the housing summit next week. Just like these questions that we were asking today about, well, what about this demographic? What are their housing types like? How would housing look for them to get them to be owner occupied and homeowners? So kind of thinking through those questions and looking at the data to see if you can find answers in there. Like I said, Michael has a ton of data, so if you want more answers, he probably has.
When are we gonna see the script?
The script will be sent out Thursday,
Okay.
along with slides, and it will be sent out in a Word doc version, so you can edit and change and add what you would like to.
Okay, one more thought as far as administration. I know the mayor and I have talked. Because one thing that you could mention is if there are things we're gonna do in the development process to cut timing and price.
Yeah, I can mix you know about.
Okay, so, and I've talked to Bill about that, so if you wanna do 5 minutes of that, because that goes directly with what Isaac said and what our goal is to show how we are trying to lower pricing on houses and the land trust. So like, those are two things that, in the land trust, Sarah's doing that, right?
Yes, we
Sarah's
already
doing that.
talked to Sarah.
But the administration, whether it's Bill or Isaac or whatever, could do something possibly, it's up to the mayor if they get it, if they decide where they're going on that, but there was gonna be possibly some changes in the development process to cut time, and time is a huge amount of money for developers, like it could be $1,000 a day. So, that's another thing that would match up to lower house prices if we can lower the development costs.
Are you doing a hard copy for people?
Yes.
Good, I don't hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
and then if you have any questions, please email them ahead of time, 'cause it's a lot easier for me to know.
yes. And do you know
And go
what?
through my stuff ahead of time, then like, if you ask me at the summit, I'll probably say, I don't know, because it's like not here, it's.
And do you know
all
what?
here.
Can we keep this communication to all of us, like not individually, everyone shooting them, but let's do like group emails as far as what you want, because we're at the 1 week mark so close. So let's keep the communication open around that we can, pipe in or know what's happening collectively.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would love to see the call outs that we're gonna put in. Because they should be headlines. People are not gonna dig into the data as much as they're gonna catch those big calls.
And both the Provo.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I think that would be.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Michael, do you have anything else?
All right, well.
Nice work. Thank you.
Yeah,
There you go.
preparation.
Thanks for
All right.
playing along and doing it.
Thanks, guys. Next time, we want treats for the winners. Just putting that out there.
Got you.
We'll be having treats at, for dinner.
So we get 2 treats. Okay.
It's treats for all of them.
All right, next, the Municipal Council will consider a motion to close the meeting. I'm gonna pass this on to Gary Millward.
I understand the closed meeting has been requested on character, professional competence, and physical and mental health of an individual under the code section 405. That's permissible. Chair can entertain such a motion.
All right, do you have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, we'll take a vote on the motion. Craig Christensen,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Patrice McKay, yes, Rachel,
Yes.
and Becky,
Yes.
and Travis.
Yes.
So that passes 7-0. So if there's no objection, we'll now adjourn the Municipal Council meeting by unanimous consent.
And.
Or do I,
Close.
sorry, yes, thank you. We will now convene this closed session, Municipal Council, and we will move to the pre-function room. Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Boards and commissions, I'll do that one, and then there's way the month, I mean, when I take pictures.
Sure,
Have them down.
yep, thank you.
That's what we call it. It's all the way from Provo.